Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to part 2 of our conversation with two Turkish Cypriot journalists, two fellow journalists, that we were discussing the politics and policies of the Cyprus problem vis-a-vis the election that was just held in the Turkish Cypriot community for the voting of the leader. We were saying that the Turks don't really know that much about Cyprus and the Cyprus problem. The average Turk, the average Joe, as you said, in one of the major cities. But it seems that every cab driver has done their military service in Cyprus. So that goes to show that the actual root of the problem and the actual sustainment of the problem is a military one.
Well, it's not just a military problem. It's even Aygin in his election victory speech. He said that we will have a good relationship with Turkey, that we have a historical and cultural, a unique relationship, just as Greek Cypriots have with Greece. But what I'm trying to say is that the Cyprus issue is a sensitive subject, especially for the government. And now, for example, people feel very emotional about it because a lot of people, they believe that Turkey intervened in Cyprus to save Turkish Cypriots. And so for them, it is a matter of pride, it is a matter of national unity. And so, when we talk about concessions, this kind of creates a very different feeling within them.
And we need to get the story and the history as correct as possible in order to get away from the two poles, the two extremes.
Yeah.
Salvaging a part of the population while slaughtering another.
Yeah.
The story has two sides. Every coin has two sides.
Definitely. But what I'm trying to say is that this is how they look at it from the Turkish perspective.
Yeah.
The Turkish Cypriots were saved by Turkey. So for them, they feel like the older brother who takes care of their younger siblings.
And that is why it was so important for them to stand up to their big brother and say, we need to solve the Cyprus problem. We don't need your salvation anymore. We need to live together. We need to solve this problem. We need to make this problem go away. And the way to do it is if you leave us figure it out between us.
Yes.
Yeah. I would like to play the devil's advocate a little bit and challenge some of the taboos that Greek Cypriots have. Because I think we are over most of our taboos, and I think it's time you guys are over yours too. First is the leader doesn't matter. It is Ankara who is making all the decisions. It is Ankara deciding who wins and what the winner does. Well, I think yesterday we obviously showed that this is not the case. Aygin is a guy who stood up to the Turkish commander in the north and said, you are overdoing it. You are crossing over a line. He stood up there and challenged the commander. This is a guy who in Spain spoke to Erdogan's face and said, why are you transferring population to Cyprus? This is a guy who has been in conflict with Turkey in a number of times. So if it was as we very conveniently assume that Turkey pulling all the strings and making all the decisions, they would not have let Aygin have a sweeping win. So this is first. It's not Ankara, you guys. It's if Turkish Cypriots and Greek Cypriots together raise their voices, as we did in 2003, and before that we raised our voices and we made the crossing points to open. It was the people. If it was up to Ankara, God knows, it would not have been open. It was the people who brought the change. So we have to get over this assumption that it's Ankara, we sit back, if they want to solve it, they solve it. No, we showed that it's not Ankara, it's us. It's here, the people on the island who will do this together.
What about the parties supporting and the union supporting Aygin now?
How is that going to work?
I mean, his main issue is going to be the Cyprus problem, as all the previous Turkish Cypriot leaders. Yes, I mean, the Turkish Cypriot leader does have to approve certain government decisions, administrative decisions, but mainly his duty is to take part in the negotiations on behalf of the Turkish Cypriot community. So that's what he's going to do. And
In terms of the current government, before the elections, there was a lot of friction between the Republican Turkish Party, which is a pro-solution party, and Denktaş's party, which is the Democrat Party.
And they backed up separate candidates.
And they backed separate candidates. The DP supported
Yeah.
Erolu, and the CTP had its own candidate, and in the second round, it supported Akıncı. And there was this gossip, and well, not a gossip, but there were claims, strong claims, arguments that the coalition government, they were in a coalition, would collapse after Akıncı's election. However, statements made by both the head of the CTP and the head of the DP after yesterday's results is that the coalition will continue to run.
Oh.
Because both parties have seen that their popularity is quite low. They do not want to take the risk of going to early elections. They had chances of losing in these elections are quite high.
And no one's ready to lose.
Nobody. And Denktaş, Serdar Denktaş openly said that they would continue to work with Akıncı as Akıncı continues with the talks. The CTP already is a pro-solution party, which is the senior coalition partner, and they have already made it clear that they will support any effort towards reaching a comprehensive solution. to the Cyprus
Journalistically,
problem.
last night in Akıncı's speech, he referred to open wounds that need to close, and he was very specific about that. The Turkish Cypriot community has the wound of 63. The Greek Cypriots have the wound of 74. They're both open wounds, and we need to close them as soon as possible in the best possible way. And that was something that was fairly commented upon in the Greek Cypriot community, and in a good way.
Yeah.
How was that commented in the Turkish Cypriot community? Some say that was a historic reference.
Well, I think it is obvious that to be able to move forward, we need to face our past, we need to accept our mistakes, we need to accept our own wrongdoings, be able to apologize. I mean, I would love to see both leaders to apologize from each other. The Turkish Cypriots for 74, the Greek Cypriots for 63, just apologize. I mean, accept the past as it was, accept their own mistakes, apologize and move on. I think that would be a huge healing step for both communities. And I have not read any negative comments about Akıncı's statements about this. I do think also that it is very important, and I think we should follow up on that. I think this is something necessary to be able to move forward.
As far as I followed the speech and the reflections of the speech, it was not a really highlighted aspect of it. They have mentioned it. The most highlighted aspect of the speech was first that he would keep his election promises, that he would do everything in his power to work for a solution. And the second highlighted position was that he had become the president, the leader of the whole Turkish Cypriot community. That is, he had no intention of alienating people who did not support him or people who did not vote for him.
Yeah.
He said that he would also embrace people from all parts of the political spectrum. But again, this is a taboo issue. Unfortunately, I would like to apologize, but when I speak to a lot of my Greek Cypriot friends, they falsely assume that the Cyprus problem was a problem which started in 1974. And there
Which goes back to our conversation about knowing history. And
it's about knowing history, it's about talking, it's about dialogue. Of course there will be different versions. And it would be wrong to say that one side was right and the other was wrong. There are mistakes on both sides. And it was unfortunately painful and bitter and tragic, which is why it should never be repeated.
Yeah.
But forgetting the past and living in the past are two separate, different things. Unfortunately, in Cyprus, we tend to live in the past. So this is very important, and I think this is the most important point I would like to make to our viewers. A lot of Turkish Cypriots suffered between 1963 and 1974.
And after.
And hundreds and thousands of Greek Cypriots suffered from 74 and onwards. Can you come out and openly say that one suffering was worse than the others? Can you measure human suffering? If you can measure human suffering, then,
let's sit down and calculate, but no.
It's not possible. Human suffering should never be justified or legitimized or calculated or enumerated or put into a container.
We've invested so much in hope and in change. We haven't talked about what happens if we fail this time.
Well, I can tell you what will happen in the Turkish Cypriot community. I think the sensation when I talk to my friends, my colleagues, everyone, they say that the sensation is if even Akıncı cannot do this, there is no way. I mean, we tried with Talat, it didn't happen. If Akıncı cannot do it, then unfortunately, I think all hopes for solution will die. I don't think Turkish Cypriots will be able to gather strength again for yet a third revolution, and I think we will. It will be very dark days. It will be days of hopelessness and insecurity, which I hope will not be the case.
I just want to say we were joking about this yesterday. And we are running out of pro-solution leaders, so we don't have anybody else. The only other person we know, I don't think is Alif Salih Kırda, who's a bit, he's a Looney Tune. But apart from that, there's nobody else left. So, really,
this is all we can give you guys.
No, I'm sure there will always be hope.
Aygin said it himself last night to Anastasiadis. If we don't get to solve this, I don't know what's going to happen.
No.
Well,
Yeah.
No, I mean, I
that's
know
free
that
translation.
we will. He tends to be more optimistic than me, but I don't think we will have any hope left in the north. I don't know.
Let's say we shouldn't think about the negative scenarios.
Yes.
Let's concentrate and focus
On
our
what we
energy
can
on
do now, yeah.
what we can accomplish now. And we will see, because obviously the process is going to kickstart again sometime early next month. Espen Barth Eide, he will be here next week, and I'm sure there's also discussion about how Mr. Anastasiadis may actually meet with Mr. Akıncı sometime this week as well, which is a very promising development. And of course the process will be very different this time, because it will start from the process of give and take. So I think we will have something more tangible to talk about. But like I said, we can have a settlement on paper, but in order for it to work, we need to reconcile with our past. We need to have dialogue. We need to talk. We need to break our taboos, like Esra said. We have to read up on our history. We have to be more compassionate and understanding, more than usual. I may not be happy with what we're doing, but you have to think about the future generations. I mean, we have children, and I would like to think my daughter would grow up in a different place than what we have right now. And like you said, if unfortunately we fail to go forward, then I don't know what will happen.
I'd like to thank you, and I'd like to thank you for watching as well. Till next time.